One of the excuses that is consistently used to justify nuclear power is that it will help fight global warming. As an alternate energy source to fossil fuels, nuclear power seems appealing. But at this point in time, with global warming in full effect and signs showing in all parts of the world, any alternative to fossil fuels sounds appealing. Arguments for nuclear power include elements such as reduction of carbon dioxide emissions, but do not touch on the larger problem. The scientific community has proven that one of the most effective, if not the most effective, ways to help counteract global warming is to minimize the need for energy on the grand scale, not simply switching power sources. Ward, 2005, page 4. Switching to nuclear power does not help meet this goal. Ward explains this. Switching the entire world's electricity production to nuclear would not solve the problem. Moreover, by diverting the world's resources from sustainable energy production to nuclear power, it would only exacerbate the problem by diverting scarce resources away from those technologies which offered real hope for addressing climate change. Ward, 2005, page 4. This is to say that putting more money into building nuclear power plants and developing new nuclear technologies does not help. Rather, it makes valuable resources and capitals away from science that may actually lead to change. Nuclear power is expensive and proven to be ineffective in solving the Earth's global warming process, but it is profitable and money will continue to be poured into it by big business and government.
After hearing of all the negative effects that radiation and nuclear power has on the environment, wildlife, and humans, one would question how someone could even think of supporting the use of these dangerous products. Unsurprisingly, one of the main reasons nuclear energy is still being further explored and used is capitalism, especially in the United States. Ernest Moniz, who is the United States Secretary of Energy, wrote an article entitled, "Why We Still Need Nuclear Power." Nuclear power generation is also relatively cheap, costing less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour for operations, maintenance, and fuel. Moniz, 2011. So even though many lives have been devastated from nuclear fallout and radiation, many people have contracted life-threatening illnesses, and the environment has been negatively impacted. Moniz and many others think it is the best to use nuclear energy because it is relatively cheap. It is so frustrating that people can think this is okay. Is our society really so concerned with saving money and profiting that we can just negate the thousands upon thousands of lives that have been desecrated and the contamination of our environment? Another thing to consider is that the person who quoted this is in high power in the government, especially in the energy department, so he's helping make these decisions on the use of nuclear energy. Clearly, the government is more concerned with profit than human life in our ecosystem.
Radiation can migrate through our environment in many ways and cause damage for extended periods of time, similar to how the chemicals from pesticides remain in the environment for an unknown period of time. Radiation can live in the soil and can be brought back to the surface through the root system of plants, and forest fires, strong winds, and migrating animals can cause horizontal migration, carrying radionuclides for hundreds of kilometers. Yablokov, 2014, page 105. Polesia is an area that is strongly affected by radiation contamination from Chornobyl. Some people have no choice but to come into contact with radiation on a daily basis through necessary activities. Approximately 67% of households burn local wood for cooking or for heating. This wood is a source of radioactive smoke, which is inhaled by both adults and their children. The ash is then used as fertilizer in gardens, used to grow vegetables that are consumed by domestic animals as well as humans, thus causing greater consumption of radioactive materials. Wertelecki, 2014, page 120. The damage done from Chernobyl should make it clear that nuclear electricity brings the same level or risk to humanity and the Earth as nuclear weaponry. Yablokov, 2014, page 170.
The morality of the use of nuclear weaponry is a divisive issue in the United States. Nuclear forces are what helped the U.S. supposedly win World War II, caused us to rocket to superpower status within a matter of years, and allows us to hold our current position as the world's police. No other nation wants to find themselves fighting against a powerhouse that stations nuclear weapons in every corner of the globe, especially one that possesses the B-83, the strongest warhead in the world. Diaz, 2009. But dismantling nuclear weaponry may be worth fighting the U.S. for. The most famous use of nuclear weaponry was at the hands of the U.S., and it still affects the island nation of Japan almost 70 years after their drop-off. One conservative estimate places the death toll of the bombings around 150,000 in the city of Hiroshima and 75,000 in Nagasaki, according to the Children of the Atomic Bomb in 2007. These estimates are difficult to make exact because of the long-term effects of the bomb that killed survivors weeks, months, and even years afterwards. And those who are exposed to the bombs still today are subjected to a regional form of discrimination that marks them as dangerous to go near because of a supposed toxicity. This discrimination prevents bombing survivors from getting jobs, getting married, and receiving proper health care, Hubakish's Story Editors, 2013. The myth is so influential that it affects people today. The thousands of families who escaped the Fukushima nuclear plant meltdown suffer from this myth because it deems them supposedly too radioactive to treat or even go near. So not only did these bombings kill hundreds of thousands of people, they also employed a significant social prejudice that prevents victims from leading normal lives 70 years after their drop-offs. Incredibly, the US and many other nations still threaten their enemies with the use of nuclear employment. And this kind of threat is just despicable, offensive even, given the consequences still visible in Japan today.
Have created irreversible issues for those who endured the meltdown themselves, along with the future generations to come. The victims of nuclear fallout, women and children especially, are faced with minimal options of recovery and optimal fear of what lies ahead for their personal lives. To fully understand the complications ionizing radiation has created for those who are victimized because of their place in society can be emotionally draining. False claims in support and protection of the pro-nuclear side must be recognized as the oppressing and disrespectful discourse it truly is. The detrimental damages appear through the decomposition of forests in the eyes of the families who were forced to live with the consequences of nuclear contamination. The evidence of environmental contamination that has evoked sexism and racism must call forth humanity sooner than later to make a change. Our ecosystem deserves to flourish amongst clean, honest human beings who understand the importance of prevention and awareness. All living creatures deserve a healthy life, which clearly means pro-nuclear mindsets must come to an end.